the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
We'll see. Maybe that'll be something that drops on a service that everybody's raving about between now and then.
And then we'll just jump on it.
Yeah.
We won't try to be front runners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It won't be like Prey, which we should have done 3 weeks ago.
Well, but I think it's nice that everyone's got a chance to see this thing.
Yeah.
So we're riding the wave. If we were ahead of the curve, people are like, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't listen.
So welcome everybody. If you just heard that, then you know what we're talking about today.
Ooh. It freaks my wife out when I do it. And I will tell you, when we get into our Prey review, she was very much into this movie until she realized that it was in fact a Predator movie.
And that's what the point was. And then she was
right? done. Then she was done.
I think that was the orial point, was like they wanted to hide. They wanted to hide from the public that it was
I love it, though.
Predator movie.
This is how you reboot a franchise. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah. Review done.
We'll get into it. Yeah. That's it. Thank you. Yes, you're right. This is the buzz of the town. Even people who don't normally talk to me about movies have come up and asked if I have seen this movie or if we have reviewed this movie.
And interestingly, we can't not talk about this aspect of it. It's not in theaters. It's only on Hulu. So even though it's got a limited window of people that can see it, it's still blowing up everywhere. Much more so than 99% of the movies that are in theaters.
Well, you know what's great is if you go to IMDb, which I tend to, that's where I get a lot of my facts. And some of these reviewers they're just piss and vinegar. And it's like they feel that this movie is unworthy of a Predator sequel. They've done this creature.
What the other ones were worthy of a Predator sequel?
Well, that's just it, right? It's like there's a lot of complaints about this, but one of them is the fact that these are all shill accounts that are going in and praising this thing. That it's just Hulu to get people to sign up for their service, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of grumpy people out there. Listen, there's certain weeks I'm the grump. It's like, yeah, this movie sucked. It's like, what do you mean? I loved it. It's like,
probably people that don't subscribe to Hulu and are just angry that they can't see it. So before we get into Prey and our co-feature this week, which is, drumroll please, Apocalypto.
I am thrilled that you threw this into the mix.
The tone is very similar.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I think Apocalypto has been kind of sidelined in pop culture terms because of the controversies surrounding its director.
Yeah, just like last week where we have to kind of come out and address the elephant in the room. This is more like the howler monkey in the room. This is, but as I mentioned to you again yesterday, I have 8 pages of notes on these 2 movies alone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to get to. So do you want to do a little bit of news?
Yeah, sure.
Which is actually thematically tied into both of our movies, to be honest with you. Do you know the name Sachin Littlefeather? Does this name ring a bell to you?
It does, but I can't place why.
Okay, she is an Apache actress, model, and Native American civil rights activist who famously in 1973 came up on stage at the Academy of Motion Pictures Art and Science Awards and declined Marlon Brando's Oscar for The Godfather. because she, as she puts it, well, she had a really long, like 6-page list or whatever, and the Academy kind of shut her down. But he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry. And people immediately started booing and making tomahawk chops at her while on stage. So they basically just proved everything of why he didn't want to accept this thing.
But it speaks to, obviously in the audience here was that older generation of Hollywood actors, because another aspect of the story is that, you know, and this is, I don't know if this actually happened or not, but it's been said that John Wayne had to be held back from attacking her.
That's exactly what I read.
From rushing the stage.
Yes, that he wanted to go out and physically assault her.
Which is ridiculous.
Which would have proved her point.
Yeah.
So anyways, the Academy has come out 49 years.
Before we carry on, if this had happened today, she would have got a standing ovation.
Yes, correct. Things that were quote unquote acceptable, or, you know, whatever was going on in society that we just kind of looked the other way, or, well, that's the way it is, or that's the way it's always been, kind of a thing. How many of these celebrities get up there now and can't say thank you without spouting off some social political commentary, usually very left leaning? And Marlon Brando, yeah, I get what he was trying to do. Unfortunately, he put her right in the crosshairs. And this poor woman experienced years of abuse. And the president of the Academy finally came out and offered an apology for her treatment. After all these years, 49 years.
I'm not going to go. You go. I'm going to sit here. I'm not taking that back.
That's just a really bad person.
But imagine, though, the impact it would have made if he had gone and said that himself.
Yes. Yeah, I think it would have had more impact. Everything old is new again. The zero tolerance is crazy. So I just thought that was interesting leading into this Prey, that this was one of the main headlines that came out this week. And the other news item, which isn't necessarily a movie related, but again, thematically, NASA has announced that we are getting our first indigenous astronaut. Nicole Anapu-Man of the Round Valley Indian tribe will be mission commander in the International Space Station coming up in September. They're only allowed like 3.6 kilograms of personal items on board. And she is bringing a dream catcher that her mother gave her as a child.
That's
Leaps
good
and
news.
bounds.
Good
Leaps
news.
and bounds right there. And then the other thing we have to discuss is the passing of Wolfgang Peterson, famed director, Das Boot, Enemy Mine, Never Ending Story, Air Force One. I found it interesting. You know, we talked about, you know, last week with Bullet Train, and that the American culture can't even take a subtitled Japanese helmed movie. But Das Boot was a German film. This thing was huge. This thing was monstrous. Yeah. I remember seeing it in the theater, and it was subtitled as far as I remember. I mean, they probably did do an American dubbed.
Yeah, I can tell you that when this came out, it was on HBO all the time, and I wanted nothing to do with it as a kid. Yeah. It's a different story today, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, actually, I watched the trailer this morning, and I'm like, we should actually add this to our list, because I remember, I mean, you want to talk about claustrophobia, you know, filming inside of a submarine.
I used to call it Das Bohr when I was
And there's our review. Thank you.
When I was a youngling, but yes, yeah. I've grown since those days.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's certain movies that I gotta read. So what I found interesting was that this guy was lauded for his professionalism and attention to detail, and yet in the exact same breath, he was decried for turning out a string of standard commercial Hollywood blockbusters. Isn't that what you want to do? Isn't that really the as a director, you want to be well known. You want to make hits.
Yeah.
How dare you make commercial fare? Air Force One, man. We've covered that.
Yes, we have. But they're classics. Never Ending Story.
I know, which we haven't covered, by the way.
We haven't done that yet.
No. Atreyu, don't even get me started on that horse. Enemy Mine, that's another good one. I mean, the guy's kind of all over the place. He really, I mean, you compare these movies to each other, and outside of the opening credits, you probably wouldn't realize it's the same director. So, but 81, which ironically was the year that Das Boot was released. Do you know he was intended to direct a Batman versus Superman film in 2001?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was on the table.
I didn't know this either. Apparently, this was to star Colin Farrell as Batman and Jude Law as Superman.
Wow.
Yep. But the film was never made, obviously. Yeah, that would have been interesting, huh? Coming off of Batman and Robin. Might have cleansed the palate.
It could have.
We'll never know. We'll never know. Anyways, that's all my news items, unless you have anything to bring to the
I
table.
do not.
I didn't bring up the fact, I think it was Roger Moore who was on stage with Little Feather during that whole Academy Award debacle. Like, he's standing there with this award, like, what do I do with it now? Because she's not taking it. No one wants this thing. I'll take it home. What happened to it? You gotta wonder what happened to that.
That's a good question.
Right? Does it go back to the Academy?
And maybe they just took the nameplate off and they used it the following year for somebody else.
They just crossed off his name.
Yeah.
There you go, Joe Pesci.
Because I'm sure that's what they do. It's like it's all the same thing, but they just put the plate on that has your name embossed on it. And
I'd like to think that
that's
each one is like individually handmade, just off the shelf. Like they just go back to
I think they're
IKEA.
off the shelf. I'm pretty
Just
sure.
go to IKEA. There's got to be like one guy that has the patent to make those things. It would have been great if that was the one in UHF that he was stealing from the Raiders.
Oh, that would have been, yeah.
Marlon Brando on it. All right. So that's our news. Let's get into Prey.
Yes. So as we said, this is kind of an open secret, but the
Not
intent,
so secret, yeah.
the intent was to put this out because obviously it does not have Predator in the title. Is
No.
this the, not counting the Alien versus Predator movies, those two?
Well,
This
let's
is
see.
the fifth, right?
Yes, because there's 7 altogether, and that includes the 2 AVP movies.
Yeah.
So this is the 5th, but you're right. It's smart marketing on their part because nobody knew this thing was coming. Because the director himself, I mean, hey, 10 Cloverfield Lane, I guess he's directed a couple TV episodes with the Boys and Black Mirror, but otherwise he doesn't have a huge track record. This Dan Trachtenberg. Yeah, when the trailer dropped, you don't even realize that there's anything involving any kind of an alien until the very last scene. And I think it's only the 3 dots being pointed at somebody's either head or chest gives it away that it's a Predator movie. But again, it was, even if I saw the trailer, I probably wasn't all that interested, not even realizing what I was watching. I think it's brilliant. If you're going to reboot a franchise like this, that's kind of like you said, Predator 1 and Predator 2 really kind of stand above all the rest. And we've covered, what was it, Predators, that Shane Black.
Yeah.
It came out a couple years ago. All you're really trying to do is recapture that first movie.
Because you say the first and second stand alone, and those two together, the first one stands much higher above
Agreed.
the second.
But at least they tried something different with the second one by bringing them into the current timeline, bringing it into, a cityscape. Say what you will about Danny Glover, but, he did a damn good job with what he had.
Yes, he did.
So this was definitely a surprise. As you mentioned, it is Hulu exclusive, and that kind of works against it because the cinematography is really nice in this, and it would have been impressive to see this on the big screen.
It would have. It didn't even get a limited release. I think that it screened at Comic-Con in July.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's where a lot of the buzz came from.
Yeah,
really,
because obviously, then now the secret's out.
Right.
The hordes at Comic-Con have seen it.
Yeah, there are people who don't even refer to it as Prey. They're just like, do you see the new Predator movie? This was shot, I think, in Vancouver. It was shot up in Canada, even though it's supposed to take place in the Great Plains in the 1700s. But again, the Comanches did not live there. There's some leaps in logic in this stuff, but for the most part.
But, talking about the second movie as well, you've got that aspect. How historically accurate is this? But think of it like last week's Bullet Train, which is not a historical piece, but take it for what it is. Did you enjoy it? Yes. Did you have a ride? Yes.
And this is a ride. This is a ride.
But I can understand, if you are steeped in the culture of these peoples and you watch a movie like this, you would be angry. You're right.
Wait. Are you talking about the Comanches or are you talking about the Predators? Because more people are upset with the treatment of the way that the Predator is portrayed than the Comanches. Nobody cares about the Comanches.
Nobody cares, but I can see why somebody would get up in arms that both this and Apocalypto might not be historically accurate for somebody that knows better. But for somebody like me, if I read after the fact that it's not really correct, Did I have a
No.
good time watching the movie?
Correct.
I tend not to pay
Yeah.
too much attention to that.
No, I agree. And again, the only thing that really came across my head as far as accuracy when I was watching the movie, and I paused the movie and I turned to my niece and to my wife, and I'm like, are dogs indigenous to North America? Because the secondary character in this, her sidekick, is Nehru is our main character, this Comanche warrior young lady. She's very much a who is the girl in Brave? Or
Merida.
Merida, yeah. So in that kind of vein where she wants to be with the boys, she wants to be out, she wants to hunt, she wants to take down her first kill kind of a thing. And now you're a woman, you need to get up every morning, you need to chop wheat and grind corn. That's your lot in life.
And this character is so strong that it didn't actually need to be a Predator movie. She could have been, just proving herself against a monster bear, which it looks like this may have been.
Right. Yeah.
And it would have been enough to be a great movie in itself.
Right.
And then the other main character is her brother, Tabe, I believe.
Yeah, Tabe. When you get into the French trappers, what's great is that they have names like Big Beard, Waxed Mustache, and Spyglass.
The head French trapper looked like the guy that grabs Pinocchio at the beginning and puts him in his show.
Yes. Look out, little girl. You're going to grow some donkey ears. What's great about this is that these all are indigenous actors. Our main character is Amber Midthunder, who really hasn't done anything, but she shines in this. Dakota Beavers plays Tabe. Stormé Kip. I want to get back to the dog because my big question was, you don't think about the fact that we all have dogs now. Dogs are everywhere, and there's numerous species. Where'd they come from? Were they just living wild and we just took them and said, you know what, you're my pet now? Like, where did this all come? So then I went down that rabbit hole. And sure enough, the director wanted a dog that was as historically accurate as possible. So this dog, Sari, who had no movie experience whatsoever, this dog was adopted specifically for this movie. So I guess he had some hard times hitting his marks, which as a dog, you can only give me so many treats. But yes, he's a Carolina dog, which is a rare breed of wild dog that followed humans across the Bering Strait like 16,000 years ago. So he's like a descendant of those dogs. So he's about as close as you're going to get without it being just a wild wolf. So that's way too much information about the dog. But again, like I said, other than that, I didn't give a crap if, the weapons were accurate. At one point, she makes this makeshift rope in order to tether her axe so she can throw it and then pull it back. And she uses bark or whatever. And people are losing their minds over this thing. And I'm like, why is this any different than John Wick walking into a room and shooting 100 Yakuza, with one gun? I mean,
right.
It's a cool visual and she's badass.
Yeah.
So just let it unfold. She gets knocked out not once, but twice with no concussion. So kudos to you.
Well, that happens in pretty much every action movie. Things happen to the main character that would kill anyone else easily.
Just that bear scene alone, I would have pooped my pants and died. There's no way I would have survived that. My luck, I would have climbed inside that beaver den.
Well, Leo DiCaprio is watching that. He's like, that's nothing.
and I think that this is one of the weak parts of this are the CG animals, because it's very obvious that they are CG. I mean, because your predator is practical. This creature is practical. But speaking of CG animals, did you know I read that the lion and beast is actually real?
No.
Yeah, I'm kidding. No. The predator is more real than a pixelated pussycat. No, that's straight up CG.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so let's talk a little bit about the plot, because it's
like I was saying, it's not focused on the predator, which is a great decision. The predator is very much there to build the character of Nehru. And like I said, it could have been, any natural adversary, because she's looking to prove herself as a hunter in the tribe's eyes. And what do they call it? Kutamiya? Is that coming of age? When you prove yourself as an adult, as a hunter?
Basically, yep. The hunter becomes the hunted kind of a thing, and you have to take down this creature.
So she chooses the predator before she actually really knows what it is.
She's aware that there's something more going on, and they're very dismissive of her findings. Like they didn't even look at. She's like, I found these giant prints.
It's like, oh, it's a bear.
Like,
you know,
it's a bear. So when you first start watching it, it's kind of like Hunt for Red October in the sense that they're speaking Comanche, they're speaking native Indian language, and then it just kind of rolls into English. But there is a Comanche English subtitled version that you can watch on Hulu.
You had given me a heads up about that before I started to watch it. And I figured, okay, I'm just going to watch whatever the default is when I press play. And it was the English version.
Right.
And so what I was reading after the fact is that Comanche version was dubbed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, how does that work? Is it just like a
kind
Toho
of
Godzilla movie where
no? They
English
said it's like an AI smart program.
So the mouth movements actually match.
Yeah, yeah. So they tailored the dialogue. Yeah, because unless you speak Comanche, I mean, they could just be speaking gibberish. You wouldn't know, you know. But you know, when we get into Apocalypto, it is subtitled from beginning to end.
Right. I can see why filmmakers might be apprehensive about doing that, but it did not hurt Apocalypto at all, in my eyes.
No. And I wish I had known that this version was available because I probably would have watched it this way. But I like the fact that the option is there.
Yeah.
You know, that they went to that extent. Yeah. So this poor girl is, you know, she knows something's going awry. She knows something's amiss. None of her family members or tribe members believe her. You know, the dog, he's kind of aware of what's going on as well, but he can't tell anybody. And I think here's the thing, which I find interesting, because this takes place in the early 1700s, 1719. I think when it opens, it tells us this is what's going on. And I'm pretty convinced that this is like the Predator's first time here. He does look different. Design wise. And I will tell you, my niece, every time he's on screen, she's going, he is so cool, because she has never seen a Predator movie at all. So this was like this was a big introduction for her. And especially when he takes his helmet off and she's like, he is really cool looking.
Yeah. And I like the fact that he looks different facially than the other Predators.
You can't, I mean, two humans from one end of the planet to the other don't look the same.
Yeah.
So why would all these alien predators? But we've never seen it. Like, he was hunting the wolf. Like, we've never seen them just like shoot animals. Have we?
This is where I was questioning, because it's always been set up that the Predator he's not interested in killing you unless you're a challenge to him.
A threat, right. Which she realizes.
They play fast and loose with this.
But that's what makes me think that this is like his first, you know, he could be, for all we know, he's like a teenager and he's let loose for the first time. All right, you know, this is your, whatever you said it was. But just like she's going for the hit, the kill, like she wants to be able to hunt.
That's something. A good point, because you do see him. So if you're watching this and you don't know, it's not like they keep it from you until the end. You see the Predator.
Yeah, you
come
get a
down.
lot. You get a lot of him. Yeah.
At the beginning, he's dropped off by a spaceship, which takes off. So yeah, you could be absolutely right. So he could be there to prove himself as well.
I mean, for all we know, this guy's a businessman who has a 9-to-5 job on Monday through Friday. And his wife got him this gift here. Hunting weekend, honey. Get out of the house. Get away from the kids. Just go on the planet. Shoot something. Work yourself out. Get in touch with yourself. Because his weapons are slightly different. They're not as sophisticated. You know, but you're talking, 300-year difference? So, but
they're still pretty sophisticated in terms of what we've got today. I think he would run rings around us. I
will say this is gory. There's some blood. There's some explosions. There's some body parts being cut off. You know, somebody pointed out that he bleeds way too easy. You know, again, it's not the same creature that we saw, you know, in the Schwarzenegger movie. There are a lot of callbacks, and I thought some of them were unnecessary.
Like the specific dialogue callbacks.
Yeah, there's a if it bleeds, it can die kind of a thing, which, okay. All right. That's cool. There's one specific, which we won't get into yet, tie in directly to Predator 2.
See this after the fact. I would have never have caught that.
I screamed the minute I saw it.
Oh.
And I'm like, wait a minute. And then if you sit through the credits, you get the potential to how that may have happened. So, but we'll get there. So as I mentioned, the CG animals are kind of the weakest link in this, but that bear sequence is pretty impressive, you know, although this thing is just tearing apart this bear, you know, once a Predator, because the bear is chasing the girl, she's hiding, and then the Predator just comes along, and I guess he feels that the bear is now a threat to him, so he takes it out and
and it looks like the
manhandles
predator is actually looking for challenges. Like when he takes out the wolf, he doesn't kill the rabbit.
No, because he now sees that the wolf is the bigger threat.
The wolf is the bigger threat, and then he challenges it. Like, okay, let's fight. And then he takes out the wolf.
Of a fight. It's just...
well, this is the thing. Even when the predator is fighting, I don't know, the 30 or so odd French trappers, it's like an adult fighting infants. It's so easy, for the predator. So it's not really a fair fight in any of these matchups.
No, but that's like you said, you get
and he's invisible. And he's invisible. So,
but when he's first confronted with the French trappers, who are pieces of crap. I mean, they are not portrayed in a nice way in any way, shape, or form. There's a scene where Nehru comes across a field full of bison that are all torn apart. They're missing their pelts. And you immediately think, you're assuming it's a predator, that he just did this. But it's not. And it took me quite a while to realize that what she picks up is a cigar.
I actually watched it twice, and I picked that up on the second viewing.
I didn't know what that was. I thought it was like a piece of the predator, but you're led to believe that it was
because you're not introduced to that character yet. The cigar chomping head of the trappers.
But like you said, there's a scene where he comes across the fire scene, and they all open fire on him, but they're all flintlock rifles. So they can only get off one shot, and then they all have to sit there and reload while he just stands there going, really? This is a little
Well, that's
easy.
what I'm talking about, how easy it is for him.
Yeah. And this is the complaint, is the fact that this little girl bests him, is able to somehow take him down, but he underestimates her. Again, go back to John Wick. Go back to any of these action movies where these people overcome these insurmountable odds, from Die Hard on down. You're either in this or you're not.
More importantly, she uses his morality, let's call it, his ethos of not killing anything that's not a threat,
realize
to ignore her over and over and over again.
Yeah. I really like this. I enjoyed it immensely. I thought it was gorgeous to look at, and you can't help but root for this girl.
Yeah, and as you said, it's like kind of the Boy Who Cried Wolf story up until a point. She knows that there's something else out there that's not like anything that anybody's seen before. And when her brother and his friends actually encounter it, that's when this thing gets into the gore territory. Yeah. When it just decimates them.
Yeah, because again, right, you talk about the French trappers being ill-equipped. These guys just have bow and arrows. And I will have to say, I don't know enough about, as a kid growing up, we had bow and arrows or whatever. They are holding the bow. They've got their hand backwards. When you normally would pull back the string, you would think that your knuckles are facing forward, but they've got their hand upside down. And I'm like, that has to be, I would think that that's historically accurate to how these people actually use these weapons. But then again, she has an axe. And like I said, she creates this tether. Now she can, she uses it to pull herself out of the quicksand. She can throw this thing, hatch it into a tree, pull it back, and it immediately comes into her hand like Thor's hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. It was cool.
It was cool. It was cool. And the fact that she's just psychologically beaten down at every chance by her mother, by the brother. And that's part of the reason why it's almost like a Rocky type ending. She stands up for herself and proves that she can do this. She's going after the lion, and she's sitting in the tree, and the lion climbs up the tree and knocks her out. And then she wakes up in the tent with her mother and saying that her brother had to save her, and her brother went after the lion. I have to go out and help him. If your brother needed you, he wouldn't have brought you home. She says, dismissively. Yeah. And then the brother,
I had to save you.
He brings the lion's head back, so now he's proven himself as a hunter by doing this. And he says to her, you couldn't bring it home. I did, So
that's a slap in the face. Yeah. Dude. I'm like, you jerk.
But she stands by her story throughout, and she's proven right.
She knows what's going on. It was fun.
It was.
But, leaps in logic. She is using this flower that somehow lowers your body temperature so that the predator cannot see you in his heat vision. I'm like, wouldn't that be like hypothermia?
But here's another aspect of this. Okay, so the predator does not have heat vision when he doesn't have his helmet on, or does he? Is it just inherent to his vision that he has heat vision?
That's a good question, because I think the helmet is
that just like a sight?
It's a skull. It's a skull. From what I read, that's actually a reference to the 2010 Predator movie.
But it's actually got mechanics in it, so it's a modified skull.
Yeah.
But so my question is that Predator's vision in itself
I don't think
sensitive?
so. I don't think so, because I'm trying to remember now when he because he had his helmet off by the time he was in the water with Dutch. If you go back to the first movie, and Dutch is hiding, he's all covered in mud and he can't see him.
And that's another point I bring up, is like, how stupid is the Predator when you see through his eyes? Obviously that's a body, even though it's not glowing.
But it's dead. It's a dead body. Yeah, because that poor guy, drags his one leg back into into camp, and she's just like, "Here, take this flower, play dead." And he was doing a good job until it stepped on him.
Right. But
Yeah.
speaking of that helmet, I love that little scene right before he decimates the gang of the brothers' friends, where the lights shine on the one kid. And he's like, what? He doesn't even know what it is. Like,
no, nobody's ever seen a laser, laser lights.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't know what that is.
So there's a great few seconds where you see the puzzled look on his face as it's going around his hand, and he's looking at his hand, and then
but meanwhile she knows exactly what's about to happen. Yeah, this is a really back to basics approach, and I wish that they had done this sooner, because I could see an entire franchise where maybe you go to like medieval times or back to like Mongolia.
I don't agree with that, because then I think it's going to be repeating itself.
They're repeating themselves anyways.
I think that they should go and give you the sequel that they're building up in the closing credits in the animation.
Which is, So let's talk about that a little bit, because, at the end, she has one of the French trader's guns, and it is the gun that Danny Glover finds in the ship in Predator 2. It's inscribed with a date.
You see, I wish I knew Predator 2 better than I do, because I've only seen it a few times.
I will tell you, the only thing that sticks with me is when he makes it into the ship at the very end of the movie, because one of the other things that's on the wall is the xenomorph, that's what sets up the whole AVP, the Alien versus Predator, is the fact that you've now established that these two creatures exist in the same universe, because he has an alien head. But you're like, well, wait a minute, how does he get it? Because she has it as well as his head. She has now bested him. It was a little too easy, I think, for her to take him out. He was not very smart. I don't think that just some businessman on a weekend excursion, and he got in over his head, literally. But like you said, if you sit through the credits, you get actual. This was actually animated by Native Americans, indigenous artists, and you get the little story of what happens, and then at the very, very end of the credits, you see 3 Predator ships come through the clouds above them, indicating that this is not over by any means.
So it's pretty much an ET story.
Except he killed people. ET didn't run around hacking people's heads off.
So at some point, he was supposed to phone home, and he did not. So now they're coming to see what happened.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't show up. They came back to pick him up. I don't know if you read this though, but this is actually a little disheartening. Which is there are unbelievable similarities between this and a fan-made film from 2019 called Warrior Predator, by filmmaker Chris R. Notaris, about a 16th century Native American girl fighting predators. Yeah.
Although I also read that this was in development when they were filming the last movie, The Predator, this Prey. So, which was before 2019.
I don't know the full story. I don't like it when I start hearing stuff like that. And listen, I'm in the ad industry, and I heard way too many stories. People come up with ad campaigns, they put it in their portfolio, pitch it to Q-tip or something. And next thing there's a whole campaign that they stole and not giving you any credit. Now, I never opened that. I never read that script.
Just think of it this way. How many fan-made films are out there?
So you think
Nope.
eventually someone's got to hit?
Yeah, I
hit
think
on-
that coincidence does exist. I don't think that everything is nefarious.
I think if this guy could prove that X, Y, and Z person saw this film or he sent it to them, just like Lion King and the Little Simba or whatever. I never saw that movie. It was like the biggest movie in Japanese animation 5 years prior to your movie. So you don't like the idea of predators coming down to Atlantis and causing it to sink? Or going back to medieval times? And
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So where would you go from here with this?
I would bring back this character of Neru.
Well, I think that, that's exactly what's set up, but she's going to need reinforcements.
Oh, now that her tribe knows that she was speaking the truth. So it could be an all-out war next movie.
Maybe it's like a Bill and Ted's event. She goes back in time and she pulls all these great warriors from different times.
Oh, that would be
fights the predators.
That would be pretty cool.
That's my idea, by the way.
That's how they could do it. That's how they could do it. Bring in all these different warriors from different cultures and different timelines.
Abe Lincoln. But the vampire slayer, Abe Lincoln.
Yes, that one.
Yes.
So you had mentioned before, the quicksand scene.
Yes.
Where she falls into it. The same thing happens to the character in Apocalypto, by the way.
Yeah.
This is their forest. Don't they know better?
Yeah,
she walks into it and continues walking into it. Turn around once you realize what it is.
Can I tell you, I just watched an episode of Gilligan's Island the other day, and Mr. Howell does the exact same thing. And I'm like, yeah, you think you'd put up a little barrier. Like, don't walk here.
Yeah.
Something.
This is a missed opportunity. You said already that she's got this plant, this medicine that slows the blood, and then the predator can't, just the side effect is that the predator can't see that you're alive. Right. But she's covered in mud, just like Dutch when she comes out of
I think
I'm thinking the predator's gonna come and he can't see her because she's covered in mud. Nope, they didn't go there.
No, but you're right. She literally crawls out and she's completely blood. She looks just like Dutch. Up against the tree, and you're like, oh, here we go. We're gonna go. So I'm glad they didn't hit beat for beat because it's a little too on the nose. There were, like I said, there was enough references to the original.
But I was so mad. I'm like, why did they even bother doing that? All you accomplished was making her seem inept. That she just walked into quicksand when she should have known better. Yeah, but
it was just a set. I think it was just to set up the capabilities of her hatchet, her go gadget hatchet.
Perhaps, yes.
She did not say get to the chopper. That would have been great. What's a chopper? Yeah, there's some ugly comments on IMDb. People are stupid. I honestly, it's being referred to as woke trash. Listen, if aliens came out now, people would be all over it. Girls can't have their day in the sun. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to read this. It is ridiculous, but this is the type of people that are leaving comments. The title of this review is Sick of Identity Politics. Politics being misspelled, by the way. Surprise, surprise. A woman's the main character. Sick to death of the intersectionality identity politics forced on both the left and the right by people who control the voting rights to the corporations. They use ESG investing. There is an agenda here, and it's not equality. It's Marxism hiding behind identity politics. I don't understand.
I'm going to say this is an idiot hiding behind big words. These women are at it again. How dare you give me something different from what I'm used to seeing? Yeah,
our hero for the last 200 years on celluloid has been men.
But so let's talk about the Predator's arsenal of quote unquote primitive weaponry. He's got a shield.
Yep.
That
which I don't
unfolds.
think we've seen before.
We haven't seen that before. I don't think he's ever utilized something like that.
No.
Which he almost uses to cut off our heroine's head. And he's also got these like floating mind things that cut off
these
limbs.
Are cool. And I kind of wish that we had seen more of these in a franchise because he doesn't have his shoulder gun. He doesn't have that iconic shoulder. Maybe they haven't invented it yet kind of a thing. Or maybe he didn't upgrade his package for that hunting excursion. But yeah, these little floaty things that like little discs, they're pretty lethal.
And it takes out 3 of the trappers. And then you realize that they attach to the limb and then they blow up.
And then
they're therefore blowing the limb off.
Yeah, there's a lot of severed limbs in this.
But you don't see what they do. The camera pans back into the fog and then you just see 3 explosions go off.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, you see that the one guy who's got one leg.
Here comes Dino with 3 broken legs.
He's got one stuck in his amputated limb. And then you also have, of course, the bone helmet, as we spoke of before.
Which is really, really cool.
That has the laser sight. Now, this also gives credence to your theory that this guy is himself either young or inexperienced or a novice, because apparently whenever he uses this, it's like a guided missile. With the gun that he uses that syncs with it, shoots whatever he's sighted on.
Right. Once you lock in, hone in on whatever signal. Yeah.
So this also makes him seem inept at the very end, because she gets his helmet off. And that's her plan, is to get this helmet, because she knows what it does. She knows that it ties to his gun. So she traps him in the quicksand. And I guess she had a plan A and a plan B. Plan A, trap him in the quicksand. If he survives that,
but meanwhile, he's like 7. He's 7 something feet tall. So I mean, how deep is the quicksand?
So she's gotten his helmet off, and she's positioned it perfectly on the other side of the quicksand. So he comes out, and she's gambling that he's going to use that gun on her.
Yeah,
but wouldn't he know?
You would think. Yeah,
wherever his helmet is, that's where the bullet's going to go, not to her.
Yeah, no, that makes me think that he's not done this before. He didn't read the owner's manual. He's like, I got this.
It's like Greatest American Hero of the Predator. He lost the instruction booklet. And this Predator, it might be just the race of predators. He can take a lot of punishment without actually looking to feel pain or
he lost
anything.
An arm. He loses an arm,
and he just going. Like blows it off. He's like, well, whatever.
I don't have to type up those weenus reports next weekend. He's like, good. Sorry, pause. One hand.
But I thought it was cool that she uses his blood at the end. You see it. She's painted her face with the glow in the dark.
Yeah, which is
blood.
Gorgeous visual.
Yeah.
It wasn't a xenomorph she was fighting. That would have ended it really. That would have ended it right then and there. Oh yeah, I'll show you. And then she just melts. Yeah, I think one of the missed opportunities is not having the ability to see this in theater.
Yeah.
It was very nice to look at.
Another really cool part was when she ripped out his tooth and stabbed him with it. I thought that was really cool too.
Let's do that. But again, they leave us with a cliffhanger. We could very well be seeing a lot more of this, which is fine by me. You got to step it up though. All of their warriors are dead. It's only like old ladies and children left in the village.
Yeah, unless she gathers a force herself of neighboring tribes. Who knows what they could do with it?
I don't know.
Or maybe they should just keep this the way it is. Maybe not mess with it.
You don't go to the extent of bringing in those ships in the end credits. Then
the couple of reviews that I read were off the charts, glowing. Rolling Stone called it a long-awaited masterpiece of the Predator series.
Masterpiece, huh?
The series highlight. The website Mashable. Even if you've never watched a Predator movie, chances are you'll love Prey. It's just that good.
My niece will back that up. Having never seen it, she had no clue what she was in for. It was a very inappropriate movie. I know that her father would not approve, which is why I let her watch it.
They don't swear once.
Even if they do, that you don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what those French guys are saying when they have her in the cage?
Yeah, it is amazing. They're just pieces of crap.
Because it was, these French I watch movies with subtitles. So even though I was watching the English version, I was watching it with subtitles. When the French guys were on, it was just subtitled in French. So how does that
work with Apocalypto when it's already subtitled? Do you turn the subtitles off altogether? Or
no. I just watched it as it was, and it was English. Subtitles.
Well, I'm just saying, if you put on the subtitles, do the subtitles override the subtitles?
No, you know what it does is that there's no spoken subtitles other than what's already in the movie. But like if there's a branch that rustles, it'll say branch rustling. Yeah, and it's in a different font than the spoken subtitles. Okay,
I was completely on board with this. I would love to watch it again with the Comanche subtitles.
It would be like a different experience completely.
Yeah, I would think so. I think you would be more on board.
I think I'd like that as well. Maybe we could review it again. And
there we go.
In its Comanche version.
They changed it up. This time he won.
Yeah.
They changed it. like Clue, there's like 5 different endings.
Yeah. Oh, how brilliant would that be? That would be awesome.
How come no one else has done that since? But like, imagine if Scream comes out and there's 3 different endings. So,
But that would wreak havoc on your possibility of a sequel.
They're making up crap. Oh, that is true. It would have to be literally the last.
They'd have to make 3 different sequels, one for each ending.
Yeah, that's a little too much. But it'd be great. It was like, I can't believe Billy did it. Billy? No, it was Sydney all along. You've ruined it.
I'm sorry. All right, so what kind of buckets would we give? What kind of buckets?
I was originally going to go 4, but just to offset the ignorant prattle that's on IMDb, I'm going 4 1/4.
Yeah, I was going to go 4 as well, but I think we've talked it up.
Yeah. No.
I'm going to go 4.5.
No. Woo! Wow. Holy Hannah.
Even the first Predator. It's an Arnold movie. You know, these are not great cinematic hallmarks by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a dumb, fun science fiction movie and probably the best thing that Arnold has done, arguably.
But think about that as well. I think you're right, though, in the sense that was not really, like, you didn't know going into that. It looked like a war movie.
It did.
It
looked like, and that's what you love. A million people saw Commando, and that's what you thought you were getting again. Like, cool, I'm down for that.
But it's like this ragtag, this group going in. And you're right, because even the movie poster, it's just him in the heat vision. You don't really know what's going on.
And it had Jesse the Body. So I'm in it for that, too.
Carl Weathers.
But again, I'm going to go 4.5 because
that's big.
You don't, just like the Rolling Stone review said, I'm dumbfounded that they made a Predator movie this good. I didn't think the franchise had it in it to make a movie this good. Tip my hat.
There you go. It's all downhill again from here. You're at the pinnacle. Prey 2. I guess it's coming.
Hopefully it's just as good.
I don't know. I think those aliens put up a good fight. Those xenomorphs put up a decent.
Yeah, but is that canon? Really? Or does that sit outside both franchises?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I'll take the xenomorph skull inside the ship when Danny Glover
But you don't want to actually see the conference.
But I just want to leave that to my imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, because the alien loses. He would never lose to a predator.
But how many predators did he take out before he got beheaded or whatever?
A lot. Yeah, so for all we know, that someone else came down and like killed a bunch of xenomorphs, and he just found a skull. He's like, no one will ever know. I'm just gonna put this on my wall. No one will know. Look, I found this gun too. I'm just gonna hang it on the wall. There we go. So, nice little segue. We're talking Danny Glover right into Mel Gibson.
Oh. Ooh. Let's go to the concession stand, and we will be back for Apocalypto.
Popcorn freshly popped and buttered. Look good? Sure, it looks good, and it tastes even better. Get some now. Satisfy the kiddies with a bag of crisp, crunchy popcorn. And don't forget to get an extra bag or 2 to take to the car to munch on during the show. You will also want to take a supply of ice-cold soft drinks or delicious, flavorful coffee to keep you refreshed throughout the next show. Make the evening complete by getting a tasty treat for yourself and every member of your party. Make your visit to our theater a pleasant occasion to be remembered. We'll be richly rewarded with the thought that we have pleased you.
Okay, we're back.
That was a very yummy beating heart I had during our break, by the way. Yeah, you want to talk about some gore. This is this was 2006. But Mel Gibson, who directed this, was coming off Passion of the Christ and Braveheart. So this was his 3rd theatrical film.
I believe so.
I believe it was also his last.
No, it's not the case. Heartbreak Ridge. He's directed since. It took a while. Yeah, he's directed since.
Because we were having this discussion, and my wife's like, "What has he done since?" And I'm like, "Well, I know he was in Fat Man, which is where he played Santa Claus. Have you seen this? Yeah, it's actually very good. It's very entertaining.
Stepfather with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. He's Mark Wahlberg's dad. It's in the sequel to Stepdad or Stepfather or whatever. You never heard of that? That Will Ferrell movie?
I think so. I think my son probably watched the first one.
He's shown up here and there.
John Lithgow also in that?
Yes. Yeah, he plays Will Ferrell's dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, boy, we are going down a rabbit hole with Mel Gibson already. This is on Freevee. It's on Pluto. It's on Prime, and it's on Plex. But I have it on Blu-ray. And I will tell you, I saw this. I don't know if you did. I saw this in theater.
I did not see it in theater.
In 2006. And this movie blew my mind.
It did for me as well when I saw it. I rented it from the video store at the time, which tells you they still had video stores then.
VHS.
But I loved it. No, I think it was they had graduated to DVDs at that point. Yep.
Yeah, I will say on Blu-ray, even the Blu-ray menu is gorgeous. And there's a little featurette behind the scenes. They talk a lot about what went into this, because it is massive world building going on. We are talking about a Mayan civilization that no longer exists. We don't have really that much information as to how they spoke. There's a lot of extrapolation, and I know that there's some people who actually deride this, that it is again appropriating a culture and vilifying a culture that may or may not be accurate, but we'll get there.
When you actually depict the civilization and specifically the sacrifices and the mass killings and that type of stuff, that apparently was more of what the Aztecs did, than the Mayans.
Yeah,
but because the Mayans was a more advanced culture that they chose, but you don't really see that reflected in the movie besides the city itself.
Yeah, and you saddle that with all the baggage that Gibson now brings to this, because it was after this movie that he went on his famous tirade, but not long after. No, I think because some of the contemporary reviews mention that. So I think actually they go out of their way to kind of say, well, based on what we know now about how this guy feels about certain people, that he's kind of saying they had it coming. Like, it's like, I don't know if I want to go that far, but the Mayan civilization was in decline. And it starts right out with a quote that says, "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within." So he's basically implying that long before the Spanish conquistadors ever came along and decimated these people, they were, on their way out. They have already were seriously dwindling, and it's apparent in this movie, whether it's historically accurate or not, that they are pillaging local villages and taking these people for sacrifice in order to appease whatever sun god has.
Or could you just view it as an allegory for us today, our culture?
Yeah, I mean, every culture. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty accurate to what's going on right now. We're just eating ourselves alive. But it opens with this beautiful tapir pig hunt, and I'm like, just look how much work goes into like just getting one animal to feed your family. I said, remember that the next time you go to ShopRite and you're mad at the lady who took the last $5.99 piece of bacon. I mean, they're out there killing things in order to survive. I'll tell you right now, the language that they speak. I have a lot of notes. It's Yucatec Mayan. There's less than 800,000 people who still speak this language. It's probably not accurate to the timeline, but it's as close as we can get because there is no records of spoken language that far back.
And it's, obviously subtitled in English, and probably concessions are made to make it just a bit contemporary, the subtitles at least.
Probably 98% of all the actors are Native American or indigenous Mexican actors. 700 extras in that plaza scene.
You can tell, as good as CGI even today is, you can tell when something like that, a shot like that is practical.
They built this village. They built that entire Mecca in the jungle. They filmed in Mexico. I think it was there's 2 locations in Mexico, and they fought for a while. If you watch the Blu-ray special features, they really went to painstaking to find a jungle, because the one thing that he really wanted to convey was the depth of the jungle, and how, there's a scene, like I said early on, where you meet Jaguar Paw and some of the other younger warriors when they're chasing down and catching this tapir to bring it back. And they encounter another tribe of people who are all hiding in the jungle. And he immediately realizes that something's wrong. And then you just see like one person pop up, and then another, and now all of a sudden you got like 60 people all hiding in the jungle. Artistically, this is unbelievable.
Talking about the cinematography, I love that tracking shot in the beginning before the tapir bursts out of the...
Yeah, you have to realize he probably was in a cage right there. They're like, all right, you run by, and then we're just going to pan into the jungle and then release the pig.
This movie was spawned by Gibson envisioning like the ultimate foot chase. You know, how can we get away from like your typical Hollywood chases, like in an action film? Well, let's make it really close quarters, practical, edge of your seat, run for your life, on the ground foot chase. And this thing, it's always on the move.
Yes,
maybe with the exception at the beginning, when
very kinetic.
When you really stop for about 10 or 15 minutes and learn who these people are in the tribe, in their little village. And you really like these characters.
Just the camaraderie between these guys, and the one, I can't remember his name, that's having trouble producing an offspring. And so they offer him the taper balls. It's a joke. Like, how many times has this guy fallen for this joke? To eat these, it'll make you, the grandfather's pulling pranks on this guy. And I'm just like, I mean, is this an ad for Viagra? What's going on here? But yeah, you immediately get the camaraderie. You get the relationship, the ease at which these people don't really have. I wouldn't even say natural enemies, but they are apex predators.
Yeah.
In their environment.
And that poor Taper is probably thinking to himself, why am I so succulent?
My butt smells like bacon.
After they kill the Taper, these people, as you say, come up out of the woods and they're running from something.
Yeah. And they're asking for permission to go through your land.
And now the one head, the leader, or, the one that Jaguar Paw sees first, ends up haunting him for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Actually looks a little like Mo from the Three Stooges, which is funny because Mel Gibson is notoriously a fan of the Three Stooges. I'm like, is that on purpose? Did he make him look like Mo? Just, on
you
purpose?
Can pass through. Oh, certainly. Oh, wait, that's Curly. Never mind.
You meet these characters. They're jokesters. I'll give them that. Yes. They are practical jokesters.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a very, very, like, these are your buddies you hang out in the bar with, busting each other's chops.
Even funnier than the Taper testicle scene is, like you said, when the grandfather gives this poor guy these leaves or roots to rub against himself, before,
just rub it down there. Yeah.
Before the act. And so immediately they get back to the village and he goes right into the tent because he's got this stuff now, right?
Well, meanwhile, the mother-in-law is just haranguing him. Why you had no children? Get in there. What's wrong with you? Are you broken? And the entire village is laughing at this poor guy.
And
because he can't produce an offspring.
And she's sitting right outside the tent, waiting.
Yeah, waiting. Mom, stop. Can you go away? He can't do it without you. Oh, shut up. Get in there.
So then all of a sudden you hear the screams from inside the tent. And not only does he come out running, holding his privates, but she comes out and her mouth is burning.
Yes, yeah, that is such a throwaway little thing.
So now, this will always make me think, because I've seen it a few times before this viewing, and one of the times I watched it with my brother, and when that scene, and he hadn't seen it before, and when that scene came up, he's like, Mel Gibson, what a dirty old man.
I think he's bloody. Yeah, I bet you this guy is fun at a party. Well, maybe not so much anymore, but at one point in his life, he probably was and like I said, the entire village is just losing their mind over this. And you just see the connection that all these people have to each other. And like you said, it doesn't take much for just you to realize that this is a family unit. These are people that look out for each other. They hunt for each other. They take care of each other. Jaguar Paw's wife is pregnant. They've got one little boy, got another one, and just the relationship between him and the little boy. It was adorable.
He somehow sets this up in the matter of minutes, because that night, the next morning, is when this intense hunting party.
Yeah, which is why the other group is like coming through. Why the other group was on the move. They're like, they're coming. You think they would have warned them? But I guess maybe like, listen, if they can preoccupied with these people, then we're safe. We can just keep going.
You find this out later, because the brilliant thing about your first viewing of this is you don't know why they're being rounded up and taken. You assume that they're going to be slaves or whatever. And they don't bother with the kids. I'm like, have you never seen Conan the Barbarian? They're all going to come back and kill you in 20 years.
Yeah, right? Yeah, these poor kids. And I will say, so here's the thing, too, because, these people are basically wearing loincloths. There's no gratuitous nudity. There's nothing salacious about the way that, they're all their buttocks, the male's buttocks are all hanging out or whatever. And it is just what it is. It's not titillating. He doesn't shoot it like, oh, look at this, looking at boobies in a National Geographic magazine. It's just the way that these people live. And you get the impression that they really are isolated, a lot of these villages, because you think about how vast, the Amazon rainforest is and where these people were living, that they just, they're self-contained. When they get into the city, it's like you might as well have been on another planet. It's crazy, but you see,
because they don't know what they're looking at when they go into the city.
You don't know what you're looking at. It's chaos, absolute chaos. Yeah, you are there with Jaguar Paw. Just like all he wants to do is save his wife, save his son. She's pregnant, like I said. He lowers her into this pit. He's now got to fight this other guy off because they are just brutally. And this attack on the village is brutal. They are not holding back on women or children. Well, like you said, the children are pretty much left alone, although you're now left to fend for yourself in the jungle because your parental units have all been taken. Even the old lady is taken.
But they could be useful. They could dust, lower shelves.
You think there's a lot of dust going on there?
Yeah. But the poor kids, like as they're taken, they're tied to these rods, marched out single file of the village.
Yeah.
And as you said, Jaguar Paw's already lowered his family down into this pit. So he's got to break away somehow and get back to save them. There's no way that they can climb out on their own.
This is the impetus of the entire movie, which is he just needs to get away from these people and go and save his wife and son, an unborn child.
So everybody else has lost everything that they've ever known that have been taken away. So there's lots of wailing and gnashing of teeth.
He does a fantastic job of establishing this relationship of this family unit, like within a matter of minutes, because it doesn't take long until they're taken away. But you care for these people. You care for the poor guy who can't get his wife pregnant. He's a big doofus. And you're like, this guy's lovable. I want to hang out with this guy, and they're looking out for each other. And before this happens, the night before, they're all sitting around the campfire. And the elder is telling a story. And this is very revealing, even for 2006, where he's like, man will take and take until one day the earth will say, enough. I have no more to give. So even back, even to Mayan times, they're like, yeah, you can only use the resources of this planet for so long before, it's like a giant dog. We're a bunch of fleas, and eventually it's got to shake some of us off.
So if you can tie that back easily to that quote that's at the beginning, the great civilization destroys itself from within.
Yeah. But these people could have thrived, even if the main civilization, like if they'd stayed where they were, there's a good chance that the Spanish conquistadors probably wouldn't even come across them. You're going to go right for the main cities. You're going to take all these big temples down. That's
what Jaguar Paw says. His wife says, well, should we go to them? No, let's go deeper into the forest.
But this is where he encounters his nemesis, and I don't know who this character's name is, but he is just
the head guy or the second in command?
the second in command, who refers to him as almost.
This is Middle Eye. His
Middle
name.
Eye, okay.
But I refer to him as Niedermeyer because he looks just like
Niedermeyer. Oh man, I wish.
What are you gonna do with your life?
Is that a paw print? Oh no. Yeah, but he refers to him as almost, and that really that's about it. That's not quite, dude, not quite. Sorry, you almost got me. So that's like a battle cry in and of itself. That just it's like calling Marty McFly yellow belly.
And this guy,
chicken.
This guy Niedermeyer is so despicable. You hate him, and you want to see him taken down.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is that Jaguar Paw is so. You don't know how he's going to escape. He has to, just in your heart of hearts.
Right. Yeah.
That, as a moviegoer, you've seen this before. He's the hero. He's going to have to escape.
Yeah.
But you don't know how he's going to do it. You have no idea. He is completely beaten down, just like everybody else in his village.
And that scene where they're crossing a river, I'm like, there's some serious OSHA laws being broken here. I mean, like you said, it's all practical. It's no CG going on here whatsoever.
Yeah.
These guys are really tethered to these stupid bamboo poles by their necks, being dragged through the river. And it's harrowing. There's some.
And the poor kids who their captors don't care about are like crying and following them until they make it to the river and they can't follow them anymore.
They can't follow anymore. All right, you're on your own, kid. Sorry.
And then the girl says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of them. They're mine now."
The older little girl.
I would have liked for them to have come across them at the end, because
you know what? I just was thinking the same thing. You don't see them again. So when he goes back to save the wife, you don't know what happens to these kids.
The movie only takes place in a matter of days. It's not like months go by from the beginning to the end. So, they could easily just come across them in the forest.
I did find it funny. Like you said, early on, it's played for laughs, the relationship, and then it gets really, really serious. But there is a scene where they're trudging these poor, these captives, and they come across these people who are felling trees, and the tree falls, and the guy just yells, "Hey, I'm walking here." Are we just going full on Taxi Driver or no?
Well, that's what I was talking about, how they use the subtitles, I think, probably not literally. So I'd like to know what was actually said in the native language.
Are you ever kidding me? Yeah. So
like he probably says something, "Do you see me walking?" or something, right? But they take liberty to say, "I'm walking here." Yeah,
that's Midnight Cowboy, by the way, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, there you go. But you go back to Niedermeyer, and like again, this is shot with a digital camera, which is pretty early on in the digital camera age, because you are in jungles. You have to create tracks for these cameras to go through. Like you said, there's a lot of kinetic stuff when these guys are running through the jungles. You can't be going in there and just leveling down trees in order to make a camera track or whatever. But the costumes and the makeup are unbelievable, because these guys are not only tattooed, they're not only painted, they've got war scars. They've got, the low hanging earrings, which are very, iconic for Mayans. Those are all prosthetic earlobes, by the way. No one cut their ears and put giant, loops into them. Their head, every day these guys are being made up to look like this. And, you're running through the jungle, how many times somebody rubs into something and your makeup goes awry. It really is. I mean, it is about as immersive of a culture as you're going to get. I mean, it's very, very impressive to look at, especially when you realize that these people don't exist anymore. This world does not exist. It's no different than Cameron, creating avatars, another alien life form. It's really impressive. And you can't help but just be drawn in every, when you get to that market scene, like I said, there's 700 plus extras. Every one of those people had something done to them. 200 plus makeup artists every day.
Yeah. And then you get a sense when they're going through that decimated part of the forest. It looked to me like the Cali River Rapids ride when you're going through the.
You think so? They just went and filmed like in Disney somewhere.
They're chopping down the jungle, the forest, in order to build the civilization. They're depleting the resources. Yeah. And then that's where they see that leper. The girl, I don't know if she had leprosy or not, but that little girl that
she was creepy as all. Yeah. And she pretty much just lays out the entire.
And she suddenly channels like from some other plane, right? Day will be like night. The jaguar will lead you to your end. She's not even speaking in her child voice. It's like a grown-up voice. And then when they pass, like she composes herself again and she's a kid.
But she basically gives you the ending of the movie. She tells them exactly what's going to happen. Spoiler alert.
The people covered in like lime and they're coughing blood.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. The limestone quarries, in order to build these temples, which limestone, you start breathing that stuff in because they're completely chalk white. They're covered in
that's
dust.
Why they need these people to capture, because they need who maintains the civilization.
Right. This could easily just be Egypt, a bunch of these slaves being used to build pyramids. What's up with people building pyramids? I don't know. Aliens.
Do people? Are we going to go down that road here?
That's we can. That's another episode altogether. So, like I said, you get into this marketplace, and
the marketplace. The poor mother-in-law. Nobody wants.
Nobody. Her. She wouldn't. Yeah. Well, she kind of had it coming. I mean, if you. It's like, you're
But
a
what
nag.
happens to her? Is she just
No, right. Because she's not right. No one will buy her on the market. So what? You just let her go? And again, they're painting them blue. Whether that's accurate or not doesn't matter. He's looking at the wall paintings and
but
he realizes,
it's a great visual.
oh, it's fantastic.
And
you
talking
had-
about the Blu-ray, I watched this on Amazon Prime. It's
Okay.
cleaned up. It is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And you have to realize, so when you get up to the top of the temple and the king, all the jade, that's all painted wood to look like jade, but jade was like their gold. And the more you had, the wealthier you were. There was a scene where the bunch of women with little fans and they all had like little diamonds encrusted on their teeth and stuff. And they were just like, oh, here comes the peasants.
Yeah, it took a while for me to
sacrifice.
realize, because in the beginning, there's when some people smile, it looks like their teeth are completely rotted and they're not older.
That's got to be how do you eat like that?
Except our hero, he's got wonderful teeth.
I know. Usually I point this stuff out, but I just let this one go. So, and he does a fantastic job for someone who I don't think who's ever had any acting ability,
For making you care about him.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so invested in what he has
Yeah.
to do. And there's that one part where he looks at the sky and he says, "Don't rain," because it would drown his family because they don't have nowhere to go.
because they're in that pit. The one thing that is nice is they do keep going back to the mom and the little boy in the pit. And when they fall, the little boy ends up with a cut on his leg, and she's using beetle heads as staples.
I think
I'm
it's
like, this
ants,
is-
right? It's ant heads.
Are they ant heads?
They're ants.
It's a
Yeah.
sizable bug, but the mandibles, she is actually forcing the head to bite the scar or the cut, and the mandibles close it like a staple, and then she snaps off its body, so its little head is and I'm like, it's MacGyver level crap right there. I hope there weren't poisonous ants.
I hope-
But
yeah, I hope not.
This is the one thing I had a problem with, which is, these Mayans are sacrificing these people to the gods. I'm assuming because they want rain or whatever. But then the solar eclipse happens and everyone loses their mind. And I'm like, the Mayans and the Aztecs were so on top of astronomy and the movements of the planets and the movements of the sun. These guys knew that this eclipse was happening. I think they were
they knew on the top of the temple exactly.
Well, that's what I'm
what it
saying.
was.
Yeah, these government officials up on top are controlling the masses by making it look like, look, we sacrificed and the gods answered us. Yeah, give us more money.
This is what I was getting at before. This whole scene, from the minute that they are captured in the village, they never stop moving. They never take a break. They're trudging through the forest.
Yep.
They walk them single file as they're getting painted. They're still walking as they're getting painted. And then they move them right up the stairs. So the movie never stops. It never gives
and then
you a
one by
breath.
one, they're just being put on that altar. You're being heart is cut out and off you go.
And then
Beheaded.
you're, especially at this point, I'm like, how is he going to get out of this?
I know, because he's now he's literally
now
at
tied
the top.
up. I'm like, what time are we at? Is this movie over at this point?
Yeah, Jaguar Paul, he's dead.
So then the eclipse happens, and I'm like, okay, now my plausibility meter is
that he's
off the chart. He is saved
at the last
by
second.
an
He's
eclipse.
Yeah.
Just like at the end, he is saved. Oh, it just happens to be when the conquistadors come, that he comes out on the beach right before they kill him. So he's saved.
Was that Christopher Columbus, by the way?
It was. It's like he's saved first by an eclipse and then by Christopher Columbus himself.
Yeah. That's a good week for all things considered. It was a pretty good week for Jaguar Paul.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is the one thing, which is right. So now they offer to let them go. You don't just keep them in the basement for future
sacrifices. Apparently, they do this on certain Saturdays in August in Epcot. So.
Yeah, but this Niedermeyer, this guy needs to be eviscerated. This guy is just a piece of crap.
So yeah, as you said, the eclipse saves Jaguar Paw and whoever else was in line behind him. The big doofus guy is still here at this point, which is such a wasted opportunity. I would have loved to seen him at least last a little bit longer.
Yes, at least impregnate his girlfriend, his wife, whatever.
Well, the wife was already dead, right?
I know.
Rather than lock him in the basement and keep him for the next sacrifice, they use them as target practice. They take him out back and they put him on the big football field or whatever it was. And they say, if you can make it, into the forest, then you're free.
Yeah, this is again, this is just these idiots. Like, we got nothing better to do now. Eclipse happened. All right, let's let them go. Let's tell them we're free. All right.
So Jaguar Paw is the only one that figures out that if he crisscrosses, it's going to make it harder for them.
Crisscross.
You know,
Owen told him that last week.
Yeah, from last week. Yep.
Crisscross.
Crisscross, Larry. Crisscross. It's gold, Jerry. Gold. So they crisscross. First, the doofy guy goes.
Yeah, and he gets taken out.
He gets taken out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Blunted is what they called him. I think that was his name.
That was his name. Yeah.
So he gets taken out. And the Jaguar Paw stops to check him out before he runs into the forest. He stops and says, "Are
you okay? You got that javelin through you. You okay?"
And I'm just like, keep going. Don't even stop.
This is impressive because he does take a gut shot and he continues to just run. And this is a masterclass in suspense. This is, because now they're like, crap, he made it to the jungle.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen.
Not before he kills the head guy's son.
Yeah. This is now they're like, all right,
because he was the finisher. He was the one that they sent out first to finish the guy that they actually shoot.
This is not fair.
No,
stop. You set me up to fail.
And they can't tell at first like what's happening because they're so far away.
Oh yeah, he stands back up and he just kind of staggers.
Yeah,
and then he just drops over and they're like, what?
That's yep. Then the foot chase starts. So and it really doesn't let up from this point to the end. Of the movie.
No, but I will say this: when he stumbles into this burial ground of all these decapitated bodies, this is just horrific. It is just a sea of bodies and various decay. Do you know that he hit a Waldo? There's a guy dressed like Waldo in there.
Really?
I'm like, Gibson really does have a warped sense of humor.
Have you seen it? Or have you seen a screenshot of this?
I didn't go back and look for it, but I did read that it's there. So, but yeah, they know where he's going. He's going right back to the village.
Of course.
Yeah, it's like they know where you're going, dude.
They're chasing him anyway, so they're gonna.
Sure, no, they don't want him to get back there. Doesn't matter. They're going to take him out. Just a matter of principle at this point.
Of course, they know better to walk through the pile of bodies, so they go around.
They went around. Sure, I'm not climbing through there. It's disgusting.
If a movie besides polyester could have ever used smell-o-vision, that would have been this. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been. That's bad. And we talk about the horrible CG in the last movie. It's a real jaguar. And a jaguar kitten.
Oh, and I love this because, he cannot catch a break, Jaguar Paw, until he actually makes it back. He encounters this jaguar and he's face to face with it. Now that's chasing him as well as these guys.
And this is genius because he comes back at them. This is like a Millennium Falcon Han Solo move. He's coming right at us. Yeah, guess what I got? I'm towing mines behind me here, Galaxy Quest. Yeah, I got a hungry jaguar. And that jaguar goes right for that guy's head, which I guess
this is a nasty.
That's what jaguars do. Apparently, like most cats will go for the neck and they asphyxiate you. Jaguars go right for the head. They want to just eat your brains out. Oh my, that is a hell of a way to die. Oofa.
If killing the son wasn't enough, now this guy's really pissed off.
Yeah, sure.
He says here, I will peel his skin and have him watch me wear it.
I couldn't stop looking at the one guy. He's got like these markings on his belly that look like a dodgeball because they're all scarred up. Like they're not tattoos. They're like body.
Yeah.
Markings.
His name was Wilson, by the way.
Damn it. That was a good joke. But then we get the monkey fight. A monkey falls down into the pit. It starts raining. And he jumps this waterfall jump. He jumped on the soundstage and they superimposed him over, but it is pretty flawless where he's forced to just go over this waterfall.
But they had the camera on an arm, like looking down the waterfall.
Yeah.
So and it was, again, talk about the cinematography. Beautiful.
The camera does swoop around and I can't imagine that they would get that low in the jungle with a helicopter. So it probably had to be like almost like one of those cameras they use in football now where it's on a wire system and they can move it back and forth. Yeah. I would assume, unless it's a giant boom crane. I did not look into that, but this is where he gets down to the bottom and he thinks he's now washed free of all the blue paint. He's yelling and
he's taunting them from the bottom.
He gives this gorgeous speech. I am Jaguar Paw. this is my land. My father fought here. I fought here. We're going to live, and then they just one by one start jumping over the side. And he's like, crap.
He's like, don't.
Yeah. Nice poking the bear there, Jaguar.
Maybe I should have just started running as soon as I got on the.
Yeah. Maybe you should get off your high horse there, buddy.
But what's funny is that everybody hesitates. He's like the head guy, Zero Wolf. He's like, okay,
I'm not gonna
let's jump. And it's almost like at the end of Octopussy, where the guy, Louis Jourdan, tells the guy, go out and get him when they're in the plane.
Right, yeah.
Go get him. Out there?
Right, correct, yeah. Dude, come on.
And he kills the one guy and throws him over. He's like, no, okay, who else doesn't want to jump? And then they all jump. And the one guy that smashes his head on the rock that lands wrong.
Yeah, just that sound effect alone is like coconut being cracked.
But he's still, from that point on, he continues to use the jungle against them. When he throws the bees, this is
full on like A-Team. Now you're like, well, you go back to the taper trap. That's how he takes out
the head guy. Yeah.
You got this stuff at your, you are one with the jungle. You live here. This is your home.
He's dipping the darts into the poisonous frog. And so
does that frog be like, what are you doing back there?
Yeah. And the frog, just like the taper, he's like, why do I have to be so poisonous?
He is pretty spry for someone who has a hole in his torso, though.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's pouring rain in the port.
But for dramatic purpose, he's got to have all these.
Well, it's adrenaline. This guy.
All these things going against him.
Sure. Yeah. I was waiting for a predator to show up.
Oh, and when he takes out Niedermeyer and the spray, the spray coming out of his head, the blood spray.
Yeah.
As an audience member, enduring this guy up until this point, you will accept nothing less than blood spray coming out of his
cathartic.
head.
It is very cathartic to see this guy go down. And he's got that look on his face like, are you kidding me?
But, as much as we're touting Jaguar Paw, he leads them right to his family.
Well, like I said, they know where he's going.
But they don't necessarily know that his family is in the pit.
But he does.
Because he stops and looks down as they're in full view of these guys.
Wants to make sure that they're still, she's floating there, floating in the water. Probably the world's first bath birth.
And like you said, the same thing that you saw at the very beginning, the taper trap.
Yeah.
Takes out our Zero Wolf.
Nice callback. Yeah.
And again, this is satisfying in itself because Zero Wolf doesn't die right away. Like you as an audience member, you need to see him realize he's been bested. Yeah. By this guy.
Nope. And he saves his family.
But there's still two guys. There's still two guys he has to deal with that chase him down to the beach. And then he's saved by Christopher Columbus. Just like when they're led into the city, they don't know what they're looking at. These guys on the beach don't know what they're looking at when they're looking at the ships. They've never seen anything like that before.
Right. What is that?
So they're like kind of in a trance. They've forgotten all about Jaguar Paw.
Yeah. Which is bizarre. You have a river nearby? You've never invented a boat? I don't know. Could just very well be a predator. It just that I've never seen.
Oh, man.
That would have been great.
If it ended with the red lights on their chest and they look down. Right?
Oh, cut the credits.
We said this before. Jaguar Paw goes back up to his wife and she says, should we go to them? Nope. Let's go into the forest and seek a new beginning. Just like that. Just like the Mo said to him earlier.
Yeah. I'm done. I'm done with these new people. We're good here. I hope this guy got at least one night of sleep. He's got to be exhausted.
He says to his wife, you got any red ants? I think I need some shoring up here.
Staple me up here and we're good to go. This is unbelievable. It is relentless. And like I said, you take into account the artistic merits with the costumes and the makeup and the set design, and even the weapons. Think about the weapon. They didn't have metal. They were using obsidian. And this is one cool thing on the special features is that they talked about the obsidian, the rock, the black rocks, and the various ways that they use them not only as tools, but also as weapons. And so there's that one point where he gets whacked out on the head. And it's like, that is just like a baseball bat that only has the rock on one side. So you can use the other blunt side to just kind of like stun your victims and not eviscerate them in one shot. So this was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, including makeup, sound effects, and mixing. So.
And speaking of these weapons, the weapons maker on this film also played the missionary that you see standing.
Oh, really?
In the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, can I get a roll?
He's right in front of Waldo on the boat.
I want to go. I want to see this Waldo now.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is just a little much.
So where is Mel Gibson? Where is he?
It's apparently it's in the trailer. I don't know if it actually made it into the movie, but it is one scene where they're panning through like the village, and you just see him. He's got the full Fidel Castro beard.
Yeah, I read about this. I think that's not in the movie itself. It was
I think it's in the trailer. It's like in the trailer, but it's like a one frame thing, but still it exists. So, it's it wasn't like Hitchcock where he just inserts himself into his movies. But when they were filming that waterfall scene, a cow actually fell over the side, was in the water, fell off the waterfall,
like unrelated to the
he was just a cow, making his way through, fell off the waterfall. Well, some of the crews went in, pulled this cow out. He got up, climbed the bank, and just started eating grass. So if the cow can make it, you would think that the other guys be like, I can do that. Yeah, that's pretty. That's got to be wild, though. You're like sitting there getting ready to set up a shot, and all of a sudden a cow wanders in. Apocalyptus.
Yeah.
So yeah, not everybody is praising this. The co-screenwriter with Gibson is this Farhad Safinia. They used the Spanish colonial eyewitness accounts to kind of make this as period accurate as possible, and they leaned into this Popol Vuh, which is a sacred Mayan text that tells the creation story and epic mythological histories of Mayan culture, to kind of lean into some of that mythological aspects of like the little girl with these visions or whatever. He had a consultant, Dr. Richard Hansen, who is an assistant professor specializing in the Mayan culture. So I think they went as far as they could to make this as accurate as possible, I guess, as far as like physically. Like you said, there are some creative licenses taken with the sacrifices and with some of the other stuff. But it's a movie. You're going to exaggerate at some point. To me, this is almost on the level of like those old school Cecil B. DeMille, these larger than life 10 Commandments / Cleopatra, where you're creating this entire world out of whole cloth.
It was a hit at the time. It was made on a $40 million budget. It made $120 million at the box office, and I think well deserved.
Yeah, no, like I said, I saw this in the theater and was absolutely blown away. I mean, listen, it's hard to shake Gibson's rants that came after this, and he had some racially charged tirades and whatever, and it may have tainted this a little bit. There are some current reviews of this movie that take those into account. But it's got. I
don't know if there's a group that he didn't manage to offend.
No, he was an equal opportunity offender, right? There's one review that came out of the Chicago Tribune, and this was from a professor of anthropology. She basically just says, this came out in 2006, so right as the movie was released. And she just decried. She said, as researchers who have spent our lives studying and teaching about the Maya, we cannot help but be disappointed and even outraged by the movie. Consider all the violence in the movie. Though the Mayan practiced warfare and treated their prisons harshly, the depiction of wall paintings of blue-painted and decapitated prisoners is just wrong. Stereotypes of bloodthirsty savagery and moral degeneracy have been used to vilify indigenous people for over 500 years by every government that has sought to justify the denial of civil rights to native peoples. So for every one of us that's raving and applauding this, there's somebody who's decrying it.
I've got a little blurb as well. Now, this is from the Boston Globe. While I wouldn't wish him behind the wheel of a car after happy hour, behind the camera is another matter. So that was a positive review.
Wow. That's a backhanded positive review. Wow. Listen, you can't take, like I said, you cannot take away the artistic merits of this movie. It is unlike anything, that really has been in cinema in quite some time. It is an achievement, not just by Gibson, but everyone involved.
So what kind of buckets would we give?
Would I shock you if I went 5 buckets on this?
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna edge right up to that. So I'm not really shocked.
This is amazing. It really is a cinematic masterpiece. Even with this kind of tainting of Mel Gibson after the fact, you can't take it away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was going to go in at 4 3/4, but as we
there you
always
go,
say,
which is
a 5
monstrous.
bucket
That
for
is
one
monstrous
is
for you.
5 bucket for one is 5 bucket for all. So let's
Like I
sound
said,
that fanfare.
There you go. Like I said, it's available on numerous platforms, but if you can watch it streaming or on Blu-ray, it's amazing to look at.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
Does not let up. This is just a visceral film going experience.
Yeah. This is one of Spike Lee's essential films on his list for his NYU graduate students.
Really?
To watch. Yes.
Wow.
Yep. So there you go. A rarefied out of the blue 5 bucket.
I guess so.
I was, and it wasn't until, like I said, I was thrilled when you brought it up. I was happy to rewatch it, and then as I'm watching it, I said, I can't go any lower than 5.
Good call.
There you go. Wow.
So did we do anything else this week?
I'm hoping that we did the same thing so we can talk a little bit about this, which is the first episode of She-Hulk.
Yes, I watched it as well.
Okay,
Yep.
that is the only thing I did extra this week. Except watch. I tend to be doing homework for 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
So
all right, She-Hulk. We've
Yes.
only been given 1 episode so far, as you know, as of this recording. And it is basically a setup for what's to come. It is the origin story of She-Hulk. And the big question was whether, just like her standalone later day comic, was she going to break the fourth wall?
I had to explain to my wife what breaking the fourth wall was. So for all you out there going, Deadpool did it first. No, he didn't. This is going back. I think the mid 80s, John Byrne did his very famous She-Hulk run. And this leans heavily into that, where she is very aware that she's in a comic book, not only breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience, but sometimes breaking panels and moving from one page to another.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this is very much in that vein. You know, I'm going to say right now, this was adorable. I really, really liked her relationship with Bruce, bringing back in Mark Ruffalo. Tatiana Maslany, who is about 4 foot tall, is it's great. But they have a really nice rapport between the two of them.
Yes, they do. And the setup is, and this is the same in the comics, that they're cousins. Although the origin story, I don't think runs. Yeah,
they
same.
deviate, which I think is fun, which is fine, because I think in the comics it was like a mafia hit on her father, and she gets caught in the crossfire. But either way, she's infected with Bruce's blood. Here, they get into a car accident because a spaceship kind of drops in front of them
from Sakaar. So they're angry that their lead warrior or champion.
Well, from what I understand,
right?
From what I understand, they are the planet Hulk is a go. So they are going to be visiting that world again.
So why did they just leave?
I don't know, because you don't see them again. I would like to think that there is some payoff for the fact that this alien ship just kind of drops in front of them. But their blood intermixes, and she suddenly becomes irradiated with gamma. This is Ally McBeal on steroids, or gamma radiation, if you will. And she's like, I'm not a hero. I'm not a superhero.
Yeah.
Like, literally calling him out a couple of times. She's like, are you quoting a comic book? She's like, I am a lawyer. I have a job. I just need to get back to my job. But he's insistent that she understands that, with great power comes great responsibility.
And he's a little cheesed off that she doesn't have to deal with the other guy, as he calls his old Hulk persona.
I think out of all the characters that we've met over the years, from Iron Man on, that his storyline has kind of evolved the most, where he went from, the brute Hulk to kind of dealing with this, we bring Sakaar into it, where he, basically took the Quinjet and disappeared, and nobody knew where he was for a couple years, to kind of becoming this smart Hulk, where he can, he's very much into meditation. He's very much into, being one with this being and keeping the big guy down. And she's like, I don't need any of that. I retain my brains. I'm good to go. I'm good to go.
And you do get a little bit of the curtain pullback on what the story with his arm is. because, well, you knew that it was injured because of Endgame.
Right.
He did the snap. And so, was it, the big question is he forever crippled now because of what he did there? But because of the blood intermingling, that heals his arm in this. And there's also that weird thing, that device that I guess stops him from turning, even though he's smart Hulk, he doesn't want to turn into the Hulk. I didn't get that.
It's a weird control device that just kind of keeps him balanced.
He wasn't wearing that when he was Smart Hulk in Endgame, though. That doesn't let him be Smart Hulk.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I didn't really.
It might be a little retro going on there, but it was cute. I liked it. They're only half an hour episodes. It opened with her as a lawyer getting ready for a trial, and she does break the fourth wall, talks to you, then you go into the origin story and then cuts back. And of course, by the end, some random superhero, a bad guy, gets thrown to the wall or breaks through the wall, and she has to become She-Hulk. I don't think they even mentioned or referred to her as She-Hulk.
No, they didn't. And I was very curious about who the case was against. It seemed to be a corporation that was mishandling superpowers, like the Boys or something like that. And so I thought to myself, before they had the reveal of who was sitting there in the courtroom, wouldn't it be great if it was the hammer guy from Iron Man 2, played by Sam Rockwell?
Sam Rockwell, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, there could be callbacks. The Abomination is making an appearance. The Wrecking Crew is showing up. She's got her rogues gallery is pretty light, but I think that they're gonna. I did read that we will be getting some Wong, so our third co-host will be very happy that Wong will be returning in this show. In what form, we have no idea. I tend to think that you're going to see characters kind of play goofy versions of themselves. This doesn't, like I said, this does not take itself very seriously. So don't be surprised if, Matt Murdock shows up and he's a little snarkier than normal.
Yeah, but they've balanced that before. Look at Ragnarok, look at Love and Thunder.
This doesn't need to be Punisher level seriousness. This is the great thing about these shows is that every one of them has its own tone, and you can exist. And comic books have been doing it for years. Yeah. Look at Deadpool. So yeah, I'm excited. There was a running joke in here too, where she's trying to figure out if Captain America is a virgin. And I guess Kevin Feige finally had to step in and put the definitive question to rest, because, the guys who are writing this stuff are like, we're throwing this stuff out there, because we're fans. So you talk about this crap. And I guess Chris Evans even got involved. So yeah, Bruce finally broke down and told her that he lost his virginity in 1943 during the USO tour. And fan speculation is that it was Peter Quill's grandmother, because the same actor who plays his mom in Guardians also plays a fan in Captain America who comes up and gets an autograph from him.
Wow.
So there's a lot of speculation, but they both, Feige has said this is not true, and James Gunn said this is not true either. So that's a little too Vader making 3PO kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You don't need to connect that many dots. He had sex with somebody, probably one of those dancing girls. Even if he was holding out for Peggy, you can't say no to one of those USO girls.
I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the She-Hulk series.
Yeah, no, I think we'll be talking about it again.
Yeah. We have big news.
Uh-oh.
Next week. This is huge for you, Jeff. This is huge.
This is huge.
So what are we talking about next week?
Oh, are we talking Weird Al finally?
We are.
We're going UHF. UHF. Classic. Just to let everybody know, I did not go 5 buckets on that one.
It won't be a 5 bucket episode. But, we are at the end of August here in the summer. There's not a lot new.
Slim pickings.
It is. So we decided, let's do a creative episode and let's shed some light on some forgotten films.
Damn
well,
straight.
not UHF, not so much UHF, because this is a beloved film in the Chandler household, I'm sure.
Someone else has got to be out there loving it.
But I thought we'd get creative with the second feature, UHF being the main feature next week. Why not take a look at another music personality who tried to make a movie in the 80s and did.
She did. She didn't just try. She did.
She did.
I think she succeeded.
And it's out there for all to see. Vibes.
Yes.
Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum.
This is and Peter Falk.
Yeah.
This is a lost.
And
Not just a
Julian
lost-
Sands, the warlock himself.
Yeah, this is boy, you had to dig deep for this one because
Yeah.
I've watched it twice. I watched 3/4 of it and I'm like, I need to go back and just watch this and not take notes, just watch. And then halfway through it, I'm like, I feel like I've seen this before. And I'm like, well, wait, was it because I just watched it a week ago? Or do I actually remember watching this somewhere in my past? Because this was what, 88?
88. Yeah.
88. So this would have been the VHS era.
Yes, definitely.
Where you probably would go to your local mom and pop shop and just whatever was still available on a Friday night you grabbed. And she was a name. He was a name, not as big as he would be, but
Well, he's coming off of Brundlefly at this point.
that is true.
Not quite into Jurassic Park, but
No.
this is in the mid period for Jeff Goldblum. But yeah, that's what we're covering next week. UHF and Vibes.
That's something else right there. That's a hell of a pairing.
That's a marquee. That's a marquee right there. So thanks everybody for listening.
Yes,
this week.
thank you very much. Go check out these two movies.
Yes,
Prey
definitely.
on Hulu. And if you
And-
don't have Hulu, find somebody who does.
And Apocalypto is currently available on Prime if you're a member.
Yeah. Who isn't at this point?
Yeah.
So
All right.
yep. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. tpublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
Why am I so succulent?